All right, welcome back. So, for this fourth part of our journey through Musashi's classic, we're really stepping into the heat of it all. We're going to be exploring the Fire Scroll, which is basically Musashi's guide to mastering two absolutely crucial arts: initiative and timing.
So, here's what we've got on tap. We're going to start by looking at why we hesitate in the first place. Then, we'll unpack what the Fire Scroll is really all about, zeroing in on those big ideas of initiative and timing. You'll see how a calm mind is actually the secret sauce to making it all work, and of course, we'll connect it all to your everyday life and wrap up with the simple exercise you can start using right away. Okay, so first things first, let's talk about that feeling of being stuck. You know the one, right? We've all been there. That critical moment arrives, it demands a choice, and instead of acting, we just freeze. Musashi saw this, and he knew it was one of the biggest problems we have to solve.
So, what's really going on there? Why does that happen? When the pressure is on, why does our mind either shoot forward into total panic or just lag way behind, stuck in doubt? Well, that right there is the core challenge that the Fire Scroll is all about overcoming.
You see, for Musashi, this hesitation wasn't just about losing a moment. He saw it as something deeper, like a crack in our very spirit. It comes from having a mind that's trapped. It's either rushing ahead because it's afraid or it's being dragged backward by doubt. And let's be real, when your inner world is that chaotic, making a clear, decisive move, it's pretty much impossible. So, what's the fix? Well, for Musashi, the answer is to learn from fire. The Fire Scroll is really his mental toolkit, designed to help us transform that frozen, hesitant feeling into focused, decisive action.
Now, when Musashi talks about fire, he's not talking about just raw aggression. Not at all. It's really about embodying the qualities of fire. Its energy, its intensity, its ability to completely transform things. So this scroll is really a guide for harnessing that energy, so you can take control when things get heated. And this is a really, really important distinction to make. We're not talking about the out-of-control rage of a wildfire here. No. Think more like the focused, intense heat of a blacksmith's forge. It's a disciplined, purposeful energy, and it's directed with total precision to shape a specific outcome.
Okay, so how do we actually channel this fire? Musashi tells us it all comes down to two main pillars: initiative and timing. You can think of these as the twin engines that power every single effective action. Initiative, well, it's a total shift in your mindset. It's about going from being on the defense to being on the offense. You stop just reacting to things and start creating the situation you want. You're no longer waiting to see what happens. You become the one setting the pace, making the situation adapt to your rhythm. What's fascinating is how nuanced Musashi's idea of initiative is. It's not as simple as just act first. Sometimes, yeah, you seize the advantage before anything even starts to happen. But other times, you act with someone else's move, kind of blending with their energy to take control. And then there's this third way, which can be the most powerful. You act after they've already made their move. You wait for them to overextend, and then you respond with such precision that you completely take over the situation. And that brings us to the second pillar, timing. This one is all about deep awareness. Musashi believed that everything in life has a kind of rhythm, a pulse. So strategic timing isn't just about being fast, it's about sensing that hidden rhythm and then acting in perfect harmony with it, right at that perfect moment when you have the biggest advantage. This really gets to the heart of the difference between reacting and responding. Rushing is a pure reaction, right? It's driven by raw emotion, like fear or just being impatient. It completely ignores what's actually going on. But strategic timing, that's a response. It comes from calm observation. It lines up with the real conditions, which lets you make your move when it's going to have the absolute greatest impact. Which, of course, brings us to the mental state you need to pull all this off. I mean, how can you be in the heat of battle without getting completely burned by your own emotions? Well, the answer, for Musashi, is developing what he calls an unmoved mind. This idea right here is really the absolute core of his entire philosophy. The point is that your internal state shouldn't just swing wildly based on what's happening around you. It doesn't matter if you're facing a huge challenge or just going about your day. The goal is always to maintain a spirit that is both determined and calm. Now, this isn't about being some kind of robot with no emotions. It's about not being controlled by them. Calm intensity is that ability to take all the energy from fear or adrenaline and channel it, to turn it into productive focus. You're using the fire. You're not letting it consume you. Okay, so How does the strategy from a swordsman from centuries ago actually apply to our modern lives? Well, the connection is surprisingly direct, especially when you look at the challenges we all face every single day.
Let's make this super practical. Think about procrastinating on a big project at work. You get that overwhelmed feeling, you hesitate, you just kind of circle the problem. The fire scroll solution? Seize the initiative with one tiny, decisive first step. Just send that one email. That's it. You've broken the inertia. Or what about a difficult conversation you've been putting off? Instead of going in hot and reacting with emotion, you can act with that calm intensity. Speak your piece clearly, but without aggression. And it's the same thing with habits. If you can learn to read the rhythm of your triggers, you can use strategic timing to step in and choose a different path right before the old pattern takes over.
Look, theory is great and all, but practice is really what matters. Musashi was all about application. So, here's one simple, really powerful exercise you can use the very next time you feel yourself getting stuck. Musashi taught that at any given moment, you have the power to just begin again. So when you feel that hesitation creeping in, just stop, pause, take a breath, and really look at what's actually happening, not the story your fear is telling you. Then you make a conscious choice to reset. Just let go of whatever wasn't working, and with a fresh intention, take one single, purposeful step forward. That's it. With that one action, you've broken the spell of hesitation, and you've taken back the initiative. So, to wrap this all up, the wisdom of the Fire Scroll is really about this: replacing hesitation with decisive action. It's about mastering initiative, knowing when to act first, with, or even after. It's about swapping that emotional rushing for smart, strategic timing. And maybe most importantly, doing it all from a place of determined yet calm intensity. So, the Fire Scroll really teaches us how to master our own actions. But of course, a huge part of strategy is understanding the actions of other people. And that's exactly what we're going to get into in our next explainer on the Wind Scroll. I hope you'll join me for that one. The link to the full playlist is right there in the description.